Hey, welcome to Flite Test. I'm Josh.
I'm Andres.
And today we get to check out the F7F Tigercat from MotionRC.
Yeah.
You want to get in the air?
Sure, let's do it.
So we got rougher terrain today here. There's actually a optional aluminum strut you can put on, this compression strut, but we're gonna go and stress test this out in taller grass.
Right. Wow, that handled it well, surprisingly.
I'm surprised it actually got off the ground that quick in this tall of a grass.
All right.
Oh my goodness. All right, I'm gonna do a low pass here and suck up the landing gear. That's the thunderstorm.
Nice.
All right, gear going up. There's a delay on this, so I'm gonna fix it soon. And there it goes, right there.
Yep, this plane has retracts and flaps built in, if you get the plug-and-play version, which is really cool.
Yeah, speaking of flaps, so there's a little bit of history behind this plane, isn't there?
Yeah, it was actually developed near the end of World War II, so it never saw action in World War II combat. But what's cool about it is it was actually designed for carrier-based operations, but since it was so fast, only one version, the 4N, ever made it onto carriers.
Yeah, you know what, speed seems to be the theme of this plane. It's like super huge motors in a skinny little fuselage.
Yeah, and even on the stock setup with the super scale props, we're pushing 78 miles per hour on this bird.
Now this is a foam model. It's heavier than typical, and it flies like a heavier model, but it's a breeze in the air, especially with the twin engine configuration. I got one notch of flaps there.
Nice.
Let's go ahead and kick it around. Now, Anders, you actually got to put this together, right?
Yeah, the build experience was actually pretty seamless overall. It only took about 2 or 3 hours to put the whole thing together, decals and all. We got the plug-and-play versions, which is, receiver ready. So all you did was just drop the receiver in it, put the linkages together, do some minor building, honestly.
It's still going to be about a 3-hour build, right?
Right. Yeah, the build manual that actually comes with this bird has really good instructions, really good pictures, and it actually specs out exactly what parts you need for every single part of the build. So the parts are actually individually packaged too, so it's really easy to find which parts you need at every step of the build.
Yeah, the manual surprisingly, typically you see manuals that don't have all the details. They actually even give you the specs on how long the rods are.
Right. Each control rod for each linkage is spec'd out.
You know what? We didn't fly this inverted earlier. It's even nice upside down. So Anders, I'm gonna put in for a landing, that's gonna be your turn, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, so I'm gonna drop the gear, and I'm gonna hit the flaps here. 2 notches this time. Now one thing, this is a heavier model, so make sure you carry throttle whenever you transition from different things, because drag will cause it to lose speed.
Right. And when you're going slow, especially with the flaps down, you don't want to turn too hard, because once you bank too far, it'll just tip stall right over.
There we go, a little bounce in.
Nice landing though.
We're definitely stress testing this landing gear. Now this actually has 3,000 milliamp 4-cell batteries in it. And that's one way how they got around the whole issue of how to get enough nose weight in this plane and also how to get enough power into it. They actually plug in, each motor has its own battery.
Right, each ESC and motor combination has its own battery that plugs in, and the batteries both fit into the same area, so it's nice and compact, but each motor has its own battery.
Yeah, so one thing to really keep in mind is make sure you don't overdrain this. This isn't gonna be like a parallel pack where it's drawn from both of them evenly. You're gonna wanna make sure both your packs are balanced, both have the same level of charge, and that you're putting them together, and also you're being conservative. Don't go over 80% of your flight time, which is roughly about 6 to 7 minutes. So I went ahead and landed it. We're gonna take it up, but first, we got the opportunity to actually fly with Mark, the owner of MotionRC, and kind of hear about his vision and where he feels about foamies, and also the kind of models they design. So this is a heavier airplane, and we were fortunate enough to have actually Mark with us today. Mark, you guys got a very unique vision on a foam board aircraft, don't you?
Yeah, so this is from our Flightline brand. This is our premier warbird line. We're very proud of this model, and MotionRC, one of the things we do really well is we build scale airplanes. We're trying to keep these planes economical for the average consumer, so that you can enjoy such a fantastic plane.
Well, here's the typical thing is generally when you see a foam airplane, there's a lot of stabilization, there's a lot of features on it that do make it an incredibly good experience to fly. Oftentimes one thing you lose a lot is the scale detail. You lose the ability to be able to really appreciate on the ground as much as you do in the air. And this is one thing you guys really address too. Even with the inside of the cockpit is painted olive drab. The doors actually close and there's a tight seam. The space and the timing of the gears as they go up, everything is meant to give you that scale experience.
Yeah, there was a time when foam meant cheap and foam meant lack of scale. And that's really something we're trying to change with all of our models and all of the brands that we carry. is scale should be default. Scale should be part of every model. It can be built into it. It can be added, whether it's painting or rivet lines.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed too that you guys did oftentimes was the decals.
Yeah.
You don't just pre-apply decals so everyone looks the same. You actually give people the freedom of actually putting on their own decals and making their own custom scheme.
Right, that's a newer thing we're doing. Some of our legacy models do have a standard set, but you're absolutely right. On our new models like the Tigercat, like the A10, which is in our Jet series, we're including sometimes 4 or 5 different decal sets. So that way you go to the field and you can have a little bit of uniqueness to your airplane, and people love it.
Love it. And the matte finish, it's smooth. You don't see the pellets of the foam like you typically do. And that's one thing, you see this and you swear it's a fiberglass model until you pick it up and realize it's not 10 pounds. Yeah. It's light and it's very, very soft to the finish.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things to do in foam is to get that bead dense and to get it to be a nice paintable surface where you're not going to see those. We call it alligator skinning, and it's you know, it's hard to get rid of that, but when you do, it just really provides a nice surface. It's phenomenal.
Now, this is actually your most popular plane to date, isn't it?
Yes, in the Warbird series, this is our #1 selling prop plane. So,
what's some of the feedback you get?
I mean, people obviously love it. I think what you said about it's not necessarily your first prop plane, but definitely a great second or third. I mean, honestly, all the feedback has been extremely positive. The one thing, just to be candid, one thing we really do at Motion RC is we try to debug the heck out of these products before they're going to hit the store shelves. Okay, so I mean, we really want to make sure that version 1 is perfect.
Awesome.
So the only issue we had with this on the very first run was we had a slight issue with the front strut, where the doors wouldn't close perfectly, and perfect for us is a few millimeters off. We fixed it. We sent out new struts to people, and we were on with a perfect model.
All right, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, one really cool thing about you know, these models is there's a story behind them. There's also a lot of people behind it too. So having the opportunity to talk to a person who has a unique vision and a unique goal and discipline for the RC industry and also foam models was really cool. Now that is a beautiful landscaped, you know, model runway. This is what you'd probably find in a typical backyard if your backyard was 30 acres.
This is a little bit more harsh on the landing gear. But
exactly, but it's holding up really great. And Andres, it's your turn now, right?
Yep, so let's take it off.
It handles it pretty well.
It really does, yeah.
Now this does have a lot of different mod parts. Once again, we mentioned that front, you know, shock absorbing strut that's aluminum. This would definitely be something I'd say add to your cart if you know you have a rougher backyard. Don't count on this thing lasting very long with rougher terrain. But the wheels are spongy. It does have a lot of give to it, and it's really easy to take off the grass.
Yeah, the nice thing is too, the retracts are really scaled. Like they look nice. So even though, you know, you might need the upgrade kit if you're going off some harsher grass runways like we are, it does look nice.
It looks really good. So along with the retracts, the doors, the front nose, a lot of those components are actually made of plastic, which means it's going to last a little bit longer as well too. Something special about watching a quad chase a plane, huh?
Yeah.
Now this plane does have a 63-inch wingspan. It's not a small airplane, and if you have a pickup truck or a minivan, you're going to be just fine. But if you do need to go ahead and transport it, the gun barrels, the antennas, a lot of those components are easily to remove. They just unplug. And also for disassembly, it's not necessarily the easiest, but you can remove one wing panel. A really cool thing they did about assembly of this is it has kind of almost like a big ribbon cable and a huge balance connector, which connects all your connections at once so you can't get it on backwards. Right. Which is really good for assembly, but also transportation.
Right. Plus you don't have, you know, 50 servo wires that you have to plug into each port and figure out which one's which. So it's really nice.
Oftentimes, a lot of Chinese models, you'll just see a wasp nest of different wires, and sometimes they're labeled, sometimes they're not, but it's so easy in your hurry to try to get everything connected. This case, once you plug it in, all of it's still going to your receiver. You don't have to change those connections, which means you're not fatiguing your receiver and you're not getting things backwards. There's something about watching the flaps go up and down.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna do the flaps and the gears for Alex real quick.
Cool. Hey, Alex is gonna do flaps and gear. Now, one other really cool scale detail is the LEDs, along with the color of this, which is kind of like a midnight blue. Back in the times, they actually used this as a night fighter in the Korean War. If you're flying this late in dusk and you didn't have those LEDs, once you drop below the trees, you would lose this plane completely. So those LEDs are not only beautiful in scale, but very much necessary for this paint scheme.
Right.
So a couple other cool features about this. This actually staggers the batteries in front and the back, and that's how they're able to keep the scale detail with the very narrow fuselage, but keep the CG proper. But because it does use 2 batteries, you have 2 4-cell 3000 milliamp batteries. You need to make sure both are charged properly, and you don't want to deplete one or the other before you're down on the ground.
Right.
or bad things are going to happen. So make sure you keep to the 80% rule where you land with 20% at least. Keep it to 6 to 7 minutes depending on how you fly.
Definitely set a timer on the radio. It'd be nice for this thing. You don't want to lose battery and, you know, crash this.
Now, unique thing with a lot of models, this does not have any gyros on it. It's a very stable platform, and we're actually flying a little bit of wind. Between you and me, Tross, and the transmitter, we had a little thunderstorm pop through, so you're flying with twice the amount of wind than I was, and it's still remarkably smooth. But if you want to put a gyro system in it, you can do that. There's a spot for it.
So this plane actually has pretty decent power on its stock setup. It has 3748 600 kV motors, and it's swinging 12x7 3-bladed props. And with the 60 amp speed controller on each motor, it's pretty respectable. You can handle that.
Nothing's getting hot.
Right.
Now you can upgrade this with an upgrade kit to get up to about, what, 90 miles an hour, 96 miles an hour?
Yeah, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Frankly, I think this is pretty scale speed.
I would think so, yeah. Scale power too.
Now, a lot of people are wondering what skill set you're going to need and you know what price tag it is. This is $349 receiver ready. All you need is your batteries and your receiver, and you're ready to fly. A little bit of assembly time, about 3 hours, you're in the air.
Yep.
Now, it's a really friendly price point for an airplane that's twin motors and has a 63-inch wingspan. But if this is your first plane, it's not for you. You're going to want to learn the disciplines of 4-channel flight, but also flying the wing and not the motors.
Right.
Although you have 2 motors blowing over the wings at all time, it does have a very gentle stall characteristic, but you don't want to push it, especially when you're transitioning from flaps or landing gear. You're going to want to learn the discipline of using throttle to keep your speed and manage your speed through all different flight modes.
Right, this is a plane that you definitely want to fly scale. Don't push too many aerobatics with it. We've done rolls, you know, 4-point rolls. Haven't tried a loop yet.
Oh, why don't you do that now?
Sure. It handles the vert great too.
Yeah, we went and took it up inverted and stuff. It tracks like an arrow even without stabilization in it, which is cool. It has counter-rotating props, 0 torque.
All right, so get some altitude. And now.
Nice big lazy loop.
Yeah.
Plenty of power for it.
Yeah, that actually handled the loop pretty nicely. It was tighter than I thought it would be.
Don't anticipate doing any aggressive aerobatics, snap rolls, things like that. Fly it like the Warbird. That's really the reward you get to do with it. And also with the finish, this finish is begging to be upgraded. So if one thing you guys would like to see is some techniques on how to weather the paint jobs, how to make it look a little bit more scale, that's something we definitely like to show you. And one other thing we'd like to do is to review more Motion RC products. Motion RC has a very unique way that they approach Warbirds, way they approach models with their fit, their finish, and the whole build experience. If you guys would like to see another model, let us know what it is. Frankly, we're kind of hung up on the A10 Warthog.
Yeah, that thing looks nice.
You're bringing this in for landing, huh?
Yep.
All right, this is...
Got a little bit of rough press.
Dude, look at that!
That was beautiful.
He literally crossed from where the field is to where the runway is.
There's some stubble out there, which is pretty tough, but it handled it pretty well.
Very cool. You like it?
I love it.
Awesome, awesome. Friends, we want to do some straight up reviews. Also, we want to bring you the story behind the story, you know, where we introduce the people behind the projects. If you guys have more Motion RC products you'd like to see, like maybe the A10, or you'd like to see some weathering techniques, let us know down in the comments below. Thank you for subscribing. Andres, great flying.
Thanks, dude. You too.
We'll see you next time.